Okay, so now that we talked about hair lighteners, we're going to jump into the decolorization process. So what's going to happen in the hair, and this will depend on the person, someone who is of the soft brown category, also known as your natural blondes, are not going to decolorize the same as someone who is a natural dark brown or in the warm brown family. The reason being is that when you have a lot of eumelanin, you're going to pull a lot more warmth, a lot more red and orange, and then go into the yellows and finally pale yellow. Now, a natural blonde is going to have far less of those colors, so what happens is you're able to break through the base and quicker and easier. Now, most of the day, a lot of lighteners are very similar to one another, but there was a point in history when some lighteners were like a little bit stronger than others, and what happened was you would have one lightener that would lift a lot less, and you use that for the blondes because it would lift quicker. Typically, if someone's blonde, you don't need a lightener. You can use a hair color or high lift. High lift and 40 volume, by the way. I forgot to mention too that your 40 volume, it's going to be used to provide maximum lift in one service, so about 3 to 4 levels of lift depending on the hair. If you're mixing with high lift hair color, some of them are able to lift the hair 5 levels or more if you just process it longer. So with lightener, you're going to mix it with 20 volume always. Don't exceed that because you'll compromise the hair's integrity. And you're going to pull through the horrible undertones. So this is an example of what some of the undertones will look like. You'll start off at black, brown, and then work your way up. Typically when we see this or this, we freak out, especially this, because it's a very scary color. However, I will give you some pro tips right here. When you're working with the undertone chart, know what colors your hair color company bases them off, because some of them have different undertones. It's very hard to find one that has like the full chart. So what I want you to do is, if you can, make your own swatches of them so you can see. You start off from levels 1 to 10, and here are your undertones that you'll have to know. First one is level 1, dark red brown. 2 is red brown. 3 is red. 4 is red orange. 5 is orange. 6 is orange gold. 7 is gold. 8 is yellow gold. 9 is yellow, and 10 is that pale yellow, that nice inside of the banana that we want. So typically, it's important to know too, if you want to make someone a beautiful redhead, if you're lifting them with foils, you don't want to make them a pale yellow, because what's going to happen is there's not going to be enough pigment to hold that red and really make it vibrant. So typically what we want to do is foil them, bring them up to about a level 5 or 6, like that nasty orangey color. Because that little bit of red and orange in there, it'll hold the red hair color a lot better. Now, if you're doing fashion colors like purple and all that, you want to get to pale yellow, because the cleaner the base you're working on, the better for direct eyes. If you lift the hair up to like level 6 where it's orangey gold and you throw down a blue, you're going to get a very ugly brown and not a nice blue, because the blue is actually going to tone out the orange instead of actually giving you a fashion blue. So know that hair can go up to 10 stages depending on the natural level. So if they're at a level 1, they'll go through the full 10 stages. If they're at a level 9, they're only going to go through 1 stage. If they're at a level 5, 5 more levels of lift, and you'll be at that stage that you want, a pale yellow. So when you decolorize, to give you a really cool example, the bleach is going to go in there, that cuticle is going to be open, it's going to disperse and break up those melanin pigments, and that's going to create the illusion of light to pass through and bounce back, making the hair look like it's blonde. So what we're seeing is actually what's being reflected back to our eyes. It's pretty scary when you think about it like that. So know that you want to decolorize to the appropriate level. So if you want to make someone's hair a level 6, you don't want to go all the way to a level 10. I will say when you're working with demi color, go at least 1 to 2 levels lighter. Always err on the side of lighter, because it's easy to darken hair with the demi, 2 shades darker. When you tone at the level, which is obviously level 10, you're not going to get higher than that, but if you're going for like a balayage and you want like a bronzed look, you're going to want to bring them to at least up to level 7, maybe 8. Tone them with a level 9, do a shade lighter, that way you're able to, or actually, you know what, if you're doing a level 8 and you want a bronze look, tone them with a level 8, but add a little bit of 9 in there, make it a little bit lighter, that way you get somewhat of a brighter result, so it's not too harsh. All toners run different. I know some brands, like I know Davinus, I worked with them, and they run very deep and very drab, so you have to be really careful when formulating. Some manufacturers are lucky and they'll tone at the actual level. I love to use Lanza hair color. I use them, and we're actually able to adjust and make toners that actually can lift the hair about 1 to 1.5 shades because of their technology. So after we decolorize, we'll put the color back in that we want, and know that toners are traditional, semi-permanent, demi-permanent, and permanent hair products that are used to, are primarily on lightened or pre-lightened hair to achieve pale and delicate colors. Toners can also be used after dimensional hair color services. After a highlight service is complete, using a lightener, you can tone the hair to create a soft shade of blonde. Typically, I'd say about 95% of toners that we use are demi now. Very few still use semi-permanent colors, but they work. Manic Panic Virgin Snow, it works really well. Some of the Vivids you can make and customize into a nice toner for blondes. Some blonde shampoos, they work really good because the hair's porous. It's open, you just shampoo it in, leave that shampoo in 5-10 minutes. You're going to get a staining result that'll last. Also know that you can use permanent hair color, but just be really careful because a person's scalp might be sensitive and ammonia can be an irritant. So when I work with Lonza Color, we use the traditional demi developer, which deactivates some of the ammonia, and you work with dissolved ammonium compounds. These are a lot more gentler than MEA. As a result, you're able to actually lighten the hair, or you can even use 10 volume. Some people use 10 volume for that little bit of lift at a level 10 and get it up there, but the client's scalp might be irritated. What you could even do is, if you want to do premium blonde service, I've seen some people send their client home for a day, let the scalp heal, get some oil back in, and they'll come in and put a hair color over it. It's a level 10, 11, or 12, or they'll use a high lift hair color to get a fashion blonde result. And that way you're getting permanent lift and you're toning at the same time. Know that when you are lifting, you cannot safely lift hair past the pale yellow stage. If you keep lifting and lifting and lifting, trying to make the hair white with bleach, what you will get is a horrible gummy mess. It'll actually weaken the hair's protein structure, eat away so much of the hair's cortex that it's going to be gum. You'll feel it, the hair will feel mushy. What you're feeling is that inside of the cortex, it's like a rubber cement we have in our hair. That's you ruining your hair. And I also want to add on this, because everyone asks this during the chapter, well, what about Olaplex? I love Olaplex. I use it for a standalone treatment. I use it for perms and relaxers and Japanese straighteners. It's great for that, but when it comes to lightener, I don't use it in lightener. Unless the hair is super, super fragile and damaged, it's better to do the Olaplex after you lighten. When I do lighten hair, I do a demineralizing treatment, make the hair all healthy, get all the minerals out. I do lightener 20 volume. I've never had to use a bonder in my actual lightener. Also do the Olaplex training online. It's important because there's so many false stereotypes about how to use it, how to mix it. They're smart because they tell you that Olaplex is not a be irresponsible or increase your developer. You don't have to do that. I've seen people saying, oh, I'm going to mix my Olaplex with 50 or 60 volume, and I'm like, oh no. First of all, when you mix 40 volume and bleach, you're going to ruin the hair. If you mix 50 volume and bleach, you're going to destroy the hair. Olaplex is not going to prevent hair from being destroyed. You can still destroy hair with Olaplex. So know that when you know that your hair has a white appearance and you've over bleached, the result you're going to get is when hair is wet, it'll feel mushy and it'll stretch out without returning. When dry, the hair is harsh and brittle, and such hair suffers breakage and will not accept toner properly. It'll typically cause the toner to turn gunmetal gray or violet, and that's when you know you're in serious danger of breaking off. If you do a perm over that, you'll ruin the hair. Also know that hair that's breaking, you have to cut it off and get it healthy. There's really nothing that can magically fix it past a certain degree. I've seen some people using protein to bond it, but you have to remember that protein drives out moisture, so you need a little bit of moisture in your protein treatment. The book says something in the caution box, and I'm going to challenge this. It says that it is often difficult to lighten dark hair to a very pale blonde without causing extreme damage to the hair. The client should be alerted to this danger before you proceed with the service. I'm going to challenge that and say that you can get, on virgin hair, you can safely take a level 1 or 2 and make them a level 10 in one day. But here's the big but. It'll take a long time. You're going to leave the bleach on, keep it processing until you hit that inside of the banana. And 2, maintenance is going to be important, and also charging the client is going to be important. You're going to charge them with a lot of money because time is money. You can probably charge $1,000 or over. Premium blonde service. I did it for my awesome friend, so shout out Matt. I've done his hair, he had shorter hair. It took about a little over 2 hours. We had to lift to level 10, just pure weighting, and then we applied a toner over it to make it nice and blonde. So the book also says that using the correct toner can neutralize the yellow undertone and make the nice beige or white blonde that you want. So toners are important. Knowing how to formulate is important. Also know, this is really important, that the book says medications can affect hair color. In the consultation, determine whether the client is taking any medications, medical treatments for medical conditions such as diabetes, high blood pressure, and thyroid problems. These drugs may affect the outcome of the color services and most other chemical services. Discuss this with your instructor for more info. Well, I'll tell you how to get around that. Thyroid medication will ruin your best hair color. It can accelerate the color. It can make it take like that. You got to check it. Also know that certain recreational medicines people use, I won't name any names, but one of them, which has a really stinky smell, will actually turn the hair green when you lift it. I had that happen to a client. I didn't know that, but the active ingredient in that specific drug, I went to go check the foil and I'm like, oh my God, green. And I'm like keeping it together. What I had to do is I ended up using the shade ZQ RB, Red Beige 09 RB, small amount of iridescent gold, and I put the toner on, and just adding that warmth in there was able to have a good effect. I was so scared because the amount of green was scary because of the recreational drug she was using. Malibu C is really important because what it does is it goes in the hair and it will actually cleanse whatever's in there out. There's not the only one, there's other treatments out there, so I'm not trying to sell you on anything. I'm telling you what I've learned and what I've worked with. The Malibu C will go in there and get the minerals out, get the drugs out, clean the inside of the hair, because when the hair is filthy, it's not going to accept color. You know, think about it like if this is the only profession where they don't recommend cleaning the surface to work on. When you're a painter, you got to sand and, you know, prime a wall. When you're a nail artist, you got to take all the polish off. When you're working on cars, you got to take the paint off and then color over it. So now the most important part of color, and this is consultation. Consultation is key. This is where everything goes wrong if you do not do a correct consultation. So make sure you review Chapter 4, Communicating for Success. You want to book the client a little bit early for consultation, or what you can do is if you have some extra time, they want to come back in for color after a haircut or hairstyle and you're selling them on a color service, talk to them, figure out what they want. Say, hey, I can do hair colors, anything you want in particular, I'll book you in this, we'll prep for it. I know with a lot of FaceTime apps, we're able to assess the hair through the phone to a decently accurate amount. We can, you know, consult them that way. So have the client fill out a record card. You want to get proper lighting. Without proper lighting, you will not get a good consultation. Also get the swatch book and hold it up and match their hair. If you don't do this, what's going to happen is if you say, well, I think she's between a level 5 and 6. Okay, those half levels don't really exist. Some people argue this, but I'll tell you in another video my own opinion on that. What happens is you'll say, oh, she's 5.5. I've had some people give me crazy numbers like 5 3/4. I'm like, what the heck is that? So if you can't match the hair to a swatch, what's going to happen is you're going to offset the formula, and then you're already setting yourself up for failure. So match the swatch, get it in appropriate lighting, have them show you a photo, tell them what do you like about this color, what don't you like. And then this is where it becomes different, because you always want to give them options and always give them at least 2. Don't give them too many, don't give them too few. Be open to listening. Don't let the client control you. You control the client, and you're able to tell them if they're trying to push you into doing something what you don't want to do. Make sure that you have a good manager who's strong-headed, that is able to gently put them in their place. Also know that you want to gain approval from the client before you do anything. Also know that it's important to always under-promise, over-deliver. Even if you know it's going to come out good, don't be overconfident and cocky and say, oh yeah, you'll love this stuff, it'll be the best color ever. Say, well, I'll try to get you as light as possible and we'll see how it is, and if we have to rebook you to come in, but I'll make sure to tone you, that way it'll be really cool and it'll be the exact kind of blonde that you want, and it'll be a work in progress. Or you can say something like, I'll try to make your hair a really nice bright red, we'll see how far we can get, and then worst case scenario, you'll have a nice red when you leave, but you can come back in 2 weeks and I'll add some more red in, we'll add a red toner in, and it'll look incredible. That's how you want to, approach it. You don't want to say, oh, it'll be the best, we'll all be done once. We want to always leave the door open, and that way when they're saying, oh my gosh, it's even better than I thought, you'll feel good about yourself, so you'll have a success, they'll be really happy, and they'll come back. Also know that language that you use is very important when you're talking about hair color. You don't want to use offensive terms. You don't want to tell a client about, bad experience that you had or when someone's hair melted off, because that will scare them. Know that you want to use descriptive language about hair colors, such as soft, buttery, blonde, rich chocolate brown, spicy, coppery red. You want to use positive mood words to convey the benefits of hair color, such as healthy looking, natural looking, richer, subtle, or if the client is kind of like wild, say, we'll make you a fashion look, we'll make it look runway ready. Also, you want to avoid words that can be interpreted negatively, such as bleached, frosted, and roots. So if if you want to do a shadow root, you don't want to say, I'm going to make your roots look really cool, but we're going to do a rooted look. That might come across as like, oh my gosh, I'll make it look like my roots are showing. Also know that, release statements are important. You must sign them in the school. In the salon, typically we didn't have release statements. We just kind of charge them per service, which I know is bad. But know that it's important to know that a release statement is not legally binding. It just says that the client is aware that harm may come as a result of the service, or there's a risk involved, and they're being aware of the risk. They're making an informed choice for the service. Just like, for example, If you get any kind of drug, vaccine, surgery done, there's always a risk involved in that. So you'll sign the paperwork. Very few people read the paperwork, but the paperwork will tell you all like the the risks of the particular treatment, what can go wrong, what can happen. And what happens is, if something does go wrong, it doesn't mean that you can't get compensation. You actually can sue. You can sue for malpractice. You can go to specific lawyers to help you malpractice. The same is true for hair. So if you ever think that I'll just do whatever I want to do and I'm protected by the law, that ain't true. There have been stylists who have lost their license. If you look at that recent case in Texas where the lady's scalp is nice, scabbed up and blistered, she had a plug-sized island of hair come off with the flesh attached. That stylist had lost her license. There was one in Texas who's going to lose her license if it hasn't happened already. The salon will get in a lot of trouble. So there's all these important things. And I also want to add into the eyebrows. This is a really interesting area. So lash tinting and eyebrow tinting are something that still occurs in salons. In my state of New Jersey, both are illegal, but people do them anyway. You'll get fined by state board. You won't get shut down. But I know that in the school setting, it's important you don't do that, because what happens is we used to allow people to do them at my cosmetology school. We just secretly put them in a corner, get the color on, just kind of act like nothing was wrong. I had a friend who was teaching at the private school setting, and she had a client that was, oh, I want to color my eyebrows. And she was like, no, ma'am, we don't allow that. It's a school. This is not allowed in the state, so you have to be by the book in school. Client took her finger, put the color on. So my friend goes, well, I'm going to pretend I didn't see that. Her boss comes. Ma'am, you got to take that off right now. The client went ballistic. In this salon, all I can say is use your best judgment. There's salons that are going to do them anyway. It's going to happen. Will it add $15, $20 on your service bill? Yeah, but will it keep the client happy? Yeah. Is there always a risk they can have a reaction and go blind? Yeah, and that's something you really want to be aware of before you put your professional license on the line. So I'm not telling you to not do it or do it. I'm just saying be aware of what can happen. So now that we talked about consultation, release service, not release services, release statements, we're going to talk a little bit about color formulation, which is so important, and some tools and all that. So take your 5-minute break and we'll be right back.